night, a man wakes up with unbearable pain. An entire hospital is filled with a mysterious smell, and doctors uncover something so horrifying that even they are left speechless. It was just another quiet evening in Phoenix, Arizona for Ethan Walker, a 41-year-old accountant who had spent his day working from home. Like most evenings, he had a quiet dinner with his wife, Sarah, watched a bit of television, and then headed off to bed. He had no idea that by the next morning, his world would turn into a nightmare. At 3:27 a.m., Ethan woke up suddenly. His mouth was burning, his tongue was throbbing, and a sharp shooting pain spread through his jaw. He tried to swallow, but even that was agonizing. Still half asleep, he touched his tongue and froze. It felt twice its normal size. The sensation was wrong. His tongue wasn't just swollen, it felt strangely rough. At first, he brushed it off. Maybe he'd bitten his tongue in his sleep, or maybe it was just a bad allergic reaction. He forced himself to ignore it, thinking the pain would fade by morning. But the pain only worsened. By 6 a.m., he could barely speak. His tongue felt like it was covered in tiny needles. Desperate for relief, he stumbled toward the bathroom mirror, turned on the light, and hesitated before sticking out his tongue. What he saw made his stomach drop. His tongue wasn't just swollen, it was covered in dark, needle-like structures, almost as if something had burrowed beneath the surface. His breathing became rapid and his heart pounded against his chest. He had never seen anything like it before. Panic settled in. He quickly called out for his wife. Sarah, half asleep, groggily walked into the bathroom. But the second she saw Ethan's tongue, she jolted awake. She gasped, her hands covering her mouth. "Ethan, we're going to the hospital, right now." Within minutes, she had him in the car, driving as fast as she could to the nearest emergency room. Every bump in the road sent sharp pain through his mouth. He could barely keep his tongue still, and every slight movement made it worse. As soon as they arrived at the hospital, the medical staff immediately noticed something was very wrong. The moment Ethan tried to speak, his words came out slurred. The swelling was severe and his tongue was discolored. The doctors wasted no time. They ordered a full set of emergency tests, blood work, imaging scans, and a close examination of the affected area. But then, something even stranger happened. As Ethan sat in the examination chair, struggling to explain what had happened, the doctors asked him to open his mouth wider. The moment he did, a strong, sulfur-like stench filled the entire room. It was overpowering. The smell spread instantly, causing some of the nurses to step back in discomfort. One of the doctors, Dr. Michael Carter, took a step back, his expression darkening. "What is that smell?" he muttered, covering his nose. Then, suddenly, he turned to his team and shouted, "Get the extraction tools, now!" The urgency in his voice sent a chill through the entire room. The nurses and doctors scrambled to set up an emergency procedure. Sarah, standing just outside the room, had no idea what was happening. She could only watch in terror as the medical staff hurried around her husband, their faces filled with concern. Ethan, barely able to process what was going on, tried to ask what was happening to him. But before he could get the words out, the doctors had already inserted a clamp to pull his swollen tongue forward. As they magnified the view, what they saw left them completely horrified. The surface of Ethan's tongue was covered in hundreds of tiny razor-sharp spines, small needle-like structures embedded deep into his flesh. Dr. Carter stared at the screen, his hands trembling slightly. "This isn't just an infection," he murmured. "Something is growing in there?" The entire team worked with extreme precision. Using microscopic tools, they began extracting the tiny spines one by one. The more they removed, the clearer it became. These weren't natural growths. They had come from something Ethan had eaten. After further investigation, the truth was revealed. Ethan had ingested contaminated shrimp, and not just any shrimp. These had been covered in microscopic, needle-like spines from their partially crushed shells. These tiny barbs had lodged themselves into his tongue tissue, embedding deeper and deeper as he ate and drank. Over the course of several days, they had begun to multiply and spread, fusing with his tongue's soft tissue. The sulfuric odor that filled the room, it was caused by a bacterial infection which had developed as the organic matter trapped within the spines started to decay. If Ethan had waited any longer, the infection could have spread into his bloodstream, leading to a potentially fatal condition known as septicemia. The doctors immediately placed him on a heavy course of antibiotics to fight the infection and scheduled multiple procedures to carefully remove the remaining spines from his tongue. Over the next 2 weeks, Ethan underwent a slow and painful recovery. The swelling subsided and he gradually regained the ability to speak without discomfort, but the experience changed him forever. "I never imagined that eating something as simple as shrimp could lead to this," Ethan later said. "It was terrifying to think that something microscopic could burrow into my body without me even realizing it." Doctors later confirmed that Ethan's case was one of the rarest food infections ever documented in the U.S. Contaminated shrimp, when not properly cleaned, can carry microscopic foreign particles, including sharp shell fragments and parasitic larvae that latch onto soft tissue. Ethan now refuses to eat any kind of shellfish, and his case has served as a warning to many about the hidden dangers of improperly prepared seafood. His story quickly spread, shocking people around the world. Would you still eat shrimp after hearing Ethan's terrifying experience? Have you ever had a medical issue that turned out to be far worse than expected? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoy real-life stories that leave you questioning everything, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because sometimes the most horrifying discoveries aren't found in the depths of the ocean or space. They're inside us.